Bills Mafia. Are you ready? From North Carolina to Buffalo, the Mafia is united. This is your home for the passion, the power, and the pride of the Buffalo Bills. Welcome to Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover. Let's go, Bills.
All right, Bills Mafia, welcome back. We are now in week 2 of the season, the new season here, and we got a lot to talk about. And of course, as always, we got Tim, the outsider, joining us today. Tim, welcome.
Hey, how you guys doing?
We're doing well. And let's dive right into this. We do have Adam from NY Sports Wickermedia joining us here, or joining myself here a little bit later on in the show to preview the Jets Bills, but let's talk about this Sunday night game. Bills Ravens. We had Tad on the show last week, and we both kind of I think you agreed too, Tim, that the Bills needed to come off with a fast start. They didn't get that fast start, and there have been a few times I can think in the second half where I was like, man, this game is over. But the end of this Rich Stadium, as I call it, or high mark, the magic continues, and the Bills pull out an incredible victory Sunday night.
Yeah, it was an amazing game. It had me glued. Now you almost had me going to bed once they went. Ravens went up 15. But
well, apparently 25,000 Bills fans that were at the game, the parking lot there. There's a scene in the live telecast that they panned out to show the whole stadium. There was a lot of brake lights back there.
Yeah, that's what the usual Bills used to be. But you got number 17 back there, so you gotta let it go, and that's really where I was going. I was like, I'll give it one more drive. Let's see, see what happens, and they ended up pulling it out.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Baltimore's been in that situation before. Obviously with the divisional game against the Bills there with that 2-point conversion tie. I just I wasn't sure, and I know you and I talked about this last week. Josh didn't play preseason, didn't play last year. They played Arizona, and it was, a slow start there. From an outside perspective, any concern with the Bills going into the rest of the season? And I know week one's always an outlier.
Well, yeah, week one, you never know. Offensively, I think you guys look pretty solid. Now, I hope the running game looks a little bit better, in the coming weeks. But defensively, you got some stuff to work with.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, and that's what we're going to see come week 2 is, was it the Ravens being so good that you guys couldn't stop the offense, or was the defense, just not up to par? Especially the running game, almost giving up 200 yards to Derrick Henry. That's just not acceptable. I understand when you have Lamar and Derrick Henry back there, it is a tough matchup, and I don't care what team you are.
Yeah, and historically, the Bills have not played well against Henry when it comes to the running game. They've given up a ton of yards, and I think really the Bills' focus there is kind of shut down Lamar and just take a deep breath and give Henry the yards that he needs. I had mentioned this on Wednesday when I was on with Adam, who's coming up on the show here shortly on his live podcast at NY Sports Wickermedia. He had asked me about a under-the-radar player, and in that game on Sunday, Dorian Strong, a 6th-round draft pick out of Virginia Tech, played 100% of the snaps and had 0 receptions against him. So I know you and I had talked about the back end of the Bills' defense being an issue here, especially with Cole Bishop, who did not look good.
Mm-hmm.
But promising sign to have a kid like that, a 6th-round draft pick, be able to, play 100% of the snaps and not have a single reception against them.
Yeah, and again, I would pump the brakes a little bit. Dorian Strong is great from VTech. I think the kid's got really good potential. But the one thing I would say is the Ravens, didn't have to pass like that. When you have almost 200 yards rushing, guess what? There's not that many passes going on anyway. And really, they passed to Zay Flowers. And that's really who they passed to. It wasn't really much beyond that. Now, again, We're going to find out in the coming weeks what this defense is looking like. And with all these teams, they're also trying to get their legs and figuring out their identity as well.
It's one of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen. Obviously, the Houston one is, obviously going to top that. But that game on Sunday was incredible. It's just like, holy cow, they got lucky, or hey, this is something that, hey, the ball bounced our way, and they're still predict to be kind of the Super Bowl.
I don't think it affected it too much either way, because the fact is the Bills are a Super Bowl favorite. I think that it helps them out even more because that was the one big game on their schedule, but they do have an one of the easier schedules in the league going, because let's just be honest, the division's not good.
Yeah.
So, and looking at Miami, they look horrible. I think that team's going to just get blown up.
Yeah.
I don't think Mike McDaniels is even lasting past this, it's mid-season at this point.
Yeah, I agree.
Jets, we're going to find out this week, what what they really are. And, Patriots are where they are. They're a team on the come up, but they're young. And we'll see if Bills just, maybe they stepped it up for Baltimore, and obviously being the season opener and the last season opener in the stadium. We'll see if a little juice goes away in week 2, and we can repeat.
Certainly.
I think offensively you're good. I just want to see I want to see this defense, because you already know defense wins championships. If you can't stop anybody, it's hard. It's gonna be hard to put up 40 on every team in the league.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and we've been talking about this. I've been talking about it preseason before you jumped on the show here. The back end is going to be a crucial piece, and we're just going to see Jordan Poyer on the practice squad. That wasn't just a Michael Hyde signing to have him coach. I really see Poyer get involved with the Bills much earlier than maybe people anticipated, just because of the back end and that safety defense there. Ken, from your view, let's just talk about that game. I know Harbaugh has had a couple tough losses like that, but anything from that standpoint?
As far as the Ravens they look good. I mean, honestly, it was the same thing with them. Their defense obviously couldn't stop anybody either. Now, again, is that because Josh Allen's just amazing and he can do that to whoever? Possibly. And that's going into week 2, you're going to find the same thing. Because literally it came down to, if it wasn't for Derrick Henry's fumble, Bills lost that game.
100%. Yeah, I agree. You want to put a bow on week 1, Bills Ravens? Any final thoughts on that before we get Adam to jump on the show with me here?
Like I said, it was a great end of the Sunday. Was that Bills Ravens game? Look forward to seeing what they could pull off this week.
All right. Well, I know you got another commitment for a little bit here, Tim. So I know you're going to jump off here, and we're going to get Adam to come in. He's going to talk with me, and then we'll get you back on here.
All right, Mafia. It's time for The Other Sideline, where we bring in fans from the teams the Bills are facing this week. We get their perspective, their passion, and maybe even a little trash talk. So buckle up, because it's not just Bills Mafia in the house. It's game week, and the spotlight's on both sidelines. Let's go, Bills!
Bills Mafia, welcome back to The Other Sideline. And if you were hopped online this past Wednesday, you would have saw Adam from NY Sports Wickermedia had me on his show and dive deep inside Jets fandom. And he's going to join us for the Other Sideline segment. And Adam, again, I want to thank you for having me on your show on Wednesday, and welcome to Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover.
Oh, and what can I tell you? It was a pleasure having you on. I knew you would bring it, and you did. And I am happy to be here, though I am proceeding with caution as I enter the Carolina sect of the Bills Mafia. But it is very good to be with you today.
All right, great to have you here. If I did a follow-up show with Tad from the Ravens last week, that would have been dangerous for him. So you got a clean slate here with Bills Mafia on that side of things. Perfect. Well, let's just dive right into this here, my friend. So the hiring of Aaron Glenn, I love that hiring by the Jets. I mean, it's no secret, the Jets have been up and down these last couple of years here, but that signing from Aaron Glenn there, huge signing. What was the kind of the mindset for Jets fans when you guys heard that you were going to get Aaron Glenn?
My first thought was I wanted a coach who had some experience because the Jets for years now have gone with first-time head coaches. And I don't even want to run down the litany of names because each one just makes me feel more depressed. But Aaron Glenn is the one first-time head coach who people were really talking about that I didn't want Ben Johnson. I didn't want Liam Cohen. I didn't want any of these people. But Aaron Glenn is the first Jet who really gets it. Because he was a Jets player and a very, very good one at that. Now, you could say with Rex Ryan, his father was a coordinator on the Super Bowl winning team way back when. But Aaron Glenn played here for many years. He was drafted by this team. He wanted this job. And that's something that I think a lot of us as Jets fans were worried about, is who wants to take this job on. The Jets have not been in the playoffs in 15 years. They have, I believe, one winning season during that entire time, which is it is damning to think about. It is jarring to a fan base that is as loyal as we are. So I knew when Aaron Glenn came in, I knew he would preach accountability and I knew he would want it. And that's what meant more to me than anything. He actually turned down an interview from the Patriots.
Oh, well, okay.
Now, I know you can relate to some hate for the Patriots, okay?
Sure,
I know
sure,
that's something we have in common. All right.
Yeah,
so when
absolutely.
Aaron Glenn did that, it's like, okay, he's got the attitude. Now he's got to go do it with the players, hire the right staff, and do it on the field. So, yeah, I was very happy at the initial hiring. But it's always a wait-and-see approach.
Absolutely. Come from the other side of Bills. Again, I mean, that hiring to me, I felt like there was a change, kind of to your point a little bit. It's been just kind of the same thing cycling in on the Jets. I really like them getting Aaron Glenn as the coach there. I felt like there's going to be a different attitude, a different organizational base there. I mean, the reality of the situation is, as long as Josh Allen is a quarterback with the Bills, that's who you got to get through. By getting Glenn there was the step in the right direction. That was a good hire. And week one, overall mood of the Jets after week one?
I'm going to surprise, I think, a few people. Now, I'll speak for myself first. In the moment, after the loss went down and they blew that game to Pittsburgh, I was inconsolable. I couldn't even watch another minute of football the rest of the day. I basically turned on Do Not Disturb on my phone. I didn't want to look at texts. I didn't want to get phone calls. I didn't want social media notifications. I couldn't do it. And I think because it was Rodgers, that is what made it sting the way that it did, because the Jets had that game to win and they just couldn't pull it out. To me, they really just ran out of time. Is what it was. But then, you give it a day, you give it 2 days, and then, your mind starts to come back to center and you begin to look forward to what you have coming next week. And the overall mood of the franchise, of the fan base, is surprisingly positive. And I would dare say, when it comes to the most negative fan bases in the NFL, I'm sure they've done studies on this that have very little credibility, but I'm willing to bet that the Jets are in the bottom 5 when it comes to positivity, but with good reason, right? Yeah. And certainly there were some targets that that I could get into, players who didn't play well, but the positives absolutely outweighed the negatives. And that goes back to Aaron Glenn and to coaching, because I felt for several years now, this was a talented team. I put 95% of the blame for the failures of the last couple of years on injuries, but more than that, coaching. I've always felt this was a talented roster that Joe Douglas put together. I just felt the coaching staff failed the talent for the most part. Of course, mistakes are made by the front office, no doubt about it. But it's a situation now where I have more confidence in the head coach, because they looked like a professional football team. And that's not something I've always been able to say over the last 15 years.
Yeah, no. And again, and that goes back to the point that we were just talking about the hire. I mean, from the outside looking in, even watching the game on this past Sunday, I could really see that difference. You can see it going in there. Justin Fields had a great game. From my standpoint, he played well. It's definitely a different quarterback situation than it's been in the past in a couple of years. I mean, how did you feel Fields did for his debut there in New York?
Stunned. I was very, very surprised. And there were actually beat writers before the game, I won't mention them by name, who said as the rain was falling down in East Rutherford that Fields was struggling in warmups. I'm like, oh boy, here we go. Just already, because we know Justin Fields, as great as an athlete as he is, as much as his teammates respect him, he's not exactly renowned for throwing the football. And last I checked, to play quarterback in the NFL, it kind of helps to be able to throw the football around the field.
Yeah, I would say for sure.
I've heard it helps. So when he came out and started playing the way that he did, you know what I love the most? Decisiveness. He was making good decisions. He was making quick decisions. He knew when to step up in the pocket, whereas before in Pittsburgh and Chicago, he often went off to the side. When you do that, that starts to close off where you can throw the ball to. So the biggest knocks I was always hearing on Fields were, because I lived in Chicago for 20 years. I got a lot of friends who are Bears fans. They let me know a few things. And they said he's going to be late on a lot of throws. He holds the ball too long, and he's going to get sacked. He was sacked constantly, although those numbers did get better. Well, that didn't happen at all. He didn't get sacked, I think, until the final drive of the game. And keep in mind, this is against Pittsburgh. This is against TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Cameron Hayward, Keanu Benton. We're talking about some studs here. This wasn't against, the Tennessee Titans or a team, towards the bottom of the NFL. This was one of the best defenses in football. And think about this. The Jets have the third youngest roster in the NFL. They're looking for leadership. We figured when they signed Fields, he was the best of what was available. You know what he was like? He was like finding a gem at, Burlington Coat Factory or the Goodwill store.
Sure.
The best of what was available out of a very substandard, shopping of merchandise. And he looked really good. 2 years, it's like, okay, it's one game. But the signs we're seeing, he looked like an actual quarterback, not just an athlete trying to play quarterback.
And that was a good Steelers team. Their narrative with Pittsburgh this year is they're all in. They're out paying guys. And so he had I thought he had a great day. Turning point for the Jets, do you think? Or is it still too early, week one? I mean, I know we talked about it when I was on your show on Wednesday about, the matchup with the Bills and kind of, some of that strategy. But is it week one turning point for the Jets with Fields behind there?
I can't buy in after 1 week.
Okay.
Come on now. 1 week, 1 month. I'd be struggling after 1 month to buy in. No, we have been teased enough times. There's no doubt that like I said, there's talent. They were poorly coached. I mean, Robert Saleh and Nathaniel Hackett, let me put this in terms that you can relate to. They made Chan Gailey look like Marv Levy.
Yeah, there you go.
That is how I would explain it. But I'll tell you what, I was actually thinking the Jets would win going into the week, but then when Elijah Vera Tucker goes down, our best run blocker, and that's an offense that is predicated on running the football. You take out the best run blocker, what can you expect? I expected maybe 13 points, and they scored in the 30s. They averaged 5 yards per run against a box that was stacked most of the time. Wide receivers were open. We're not used to seeing that. I'll give you some numbers. Justin Fields completed 16 of 22 passes. Of those 16 completions, only 2 of those catches were contested. That means 14 completions were receivers running open. That comes down to the offensive coordinator. That comes down to coaching because you're getting your receivers in spots where they're running open. Garrett Wilson practically could not get open last year. Yeah. The offensive coordinators were Nathaniel Hackett and Todd Downing. But after Garrett Wilson, what are we talking? Tyler Johnson, Josh Reynolds, Jeremy Ruckert? Anybody listening right now, do you have any of those players on your fantasy team? If you please write me because I would like to know. I'd like to know who you were expected to bring them on. So it was an efficient offense, and that is very encouraging.
Yeah,
defense has some things to fix for sure, but it's the signs are very, very encouraging, no doubt.
Yeah. And I had Breece Hall. 146 yards, I think, is at the stat line that I saw there against the Steelers here. That's huge. And I know we talked about it on Wednesday on your show there about some of the deficiencies with the Bills' run defense and that kind of thing. But 146 yards, if I got that stat right, Breece Hall. Is that kind of a focal point? To me, it feels like it relieves pressure from Fields a little bit. The Jets don't have to rely solely on him. But was that more of a Steeler kind of breakdown, or is that what we're looking at? Breece Hall having big numbers the rest of the year.
You always have to be careful about week one because you don't know how prepared these teams are coming out. We've seen so many slip ups week one from various teams over the years. Like how a team plays week one is not necessarily indicative of how they're going to play the rest of the year. But I will say this,
even though they've had like 3 months to prepare for week one,
that is very
which boggles my mind.
That is very fair. But I went through the names, some of the players on that Pittsburgh defense. Then go to linebacker Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, who I happen to like a lot at linebacker. What encouraged me so much is that the run blocking was on point, especially Joe Tippmann and Armand Membu on the right side of that offensive line. The rookie Membu, he's going to be around for a while. He was good. He almost took TJ Watt out of the game by himself. And I give a ton of credit to Steve Hyden, the new Jets offensive line coach. Keith Carter was one of the worst coaches I have ever seen. Taylor Lewan, when he came over, when Carter came over, Taylor Lewan was giving warnings about how bad he was and how much players hated him. And he lasted 2 years and nobody got better. Nobody grew. And that's, again, why I say it comes down to coaching. He was basically the equivalent of vegan wings. Okay. But Breece Hall is, and I mentioned the blocking because Breece Hall is not one who's going to create his own yards like a Braylon Allen is going to do. But Breece is in a contract year. He's dealt with some injuries.
Gotcha.
He was very hyped last year. And it was not a good year between fumbles, drops, not having a good line in front of him. He knows it's make or break time for him. So just from the first play when he ran, I believe it was for 18 yards. That was very encouraging. And I really give more of the credit to the Jets than I do discredit the Steelers.
Let's talk about 7-point underdogs as we talk today. Obviously, before the game, line could change, as you know. 7 points at home and you're a dog. Man, that's big time. And I know we talked a little bit about, how the Bills are going to prep going into this one after Baltimore here, but 7-point underdogs going in. That's tough.
No question about it. And the Bills, the Bills deserve to be in that spot because, they're my preseason pick to win the Super Bowl. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I believe it. I think they adjusted where they needed to adjust. I think they're about as complete a team as there is in the NFL. So, I'll call a spade, and I have absolutely no problem doing it. So, I guess one thing that you might be wondering, and I think some of the Bills fans might be wondering, is do I think the Jets have a chance? Well, is there any reason Josh Allen might get suspended for some random reason in the next couple of days? Is that happening?
No, it's not. And some of the X factors that the Bills are lacking in the back end, and the cornerback position is going to be an issue. And I mentioned on Wednesday on your podcast, Dorian Strong is somebody that has really stepped in as a cornerback there. But 7-point underdog, I don't care who you are. The NFL is the NFL. It's a big number. Bulletin board for the Jets too, as well. That's kind of how I feel about that. Where do you think the Jets actually will match up best against the Bills?
I got to go with the three-headed running monster. Tall, Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis. Use those running backs. I believe the number was the Bills allowed, what was it, 238 yards rushing to the Ravens. Now, I know Derrick Henry is a Hall of Famer. I understand that. But the Jets ran for 182, and they kind of got Lamar Jackson light in Justin Fields in terms of athleticism. Okay, I want to be very clear about that. But I think if the Jets could do that, if they can run effectively, they can control the clock, own the time of possession, wear down the Bills' defense. They got to average, I think, 4+ rushing yards again, like they did against Pittsburgh. To me, that's about the most important thing that they could do. The other thing is turnovers. I know that's an easy thing to say, but I look at where these two teams are when it comes to turnovers. Last year, the Bills were, I believe, plus 24 in turnover differential.
Yep, they were one of the top.
It was insane. They were plus 8 over the next team in the NFL. That's how good that is. And something you may not even think about until you have a problem with it. And look at I look at the Jets. They were -2 last year. Now, they only turned the ball over 19 times, and when you have Aaron Rodgers, who, say whatever you like to about him, we know he's very intelligent on the football field. We know he's very smart. He's not going to throw dumb passes most of the time. Yeah. But the Jets only took it away 17 times. And that, man, Owen, nowadays in the NFL, that is so paramount. You've got this touchback rule where you get the ball on the 35-yard line. You've got kickers who can basically kick the ball to Mars nowadays. You could be a bend don't break defense, but if you don't take the ball away, if you don't make impact plays nowadays, you're not a great defense. And the Jets did not take the ball away from Pittsburgh one time. I got to see +2 turnover differential in this game if the Jets are going to have a legitimate chance to win it.
Yeah, and it's a great point. I appreciate you bringing that up, and we didn't really talk about it last week with Tad there, but that special teams, I'm a big Steve Tasker guy, my favorite player back in the 90s, so certainly I have a love for special teams, but with the new special teams kicking rule there, that is going to be a huge part and piece when you're playing Josh Allen's, a Patrick Mahomes, a Lamar Jackson, because if you're going to give up, if you're going to, give the touchback, it's at the 35. Those guys, they only got to go 20, 30 yards, maybe if that, and score points. So when you got a team that may not be on paper the same as a Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen. Like, that's a huge piece that I think a lot of fans overlook sometimes, and how to strategize that, because you're right. If Josh Allen gets it at the 35+ yard line,
You
3
figure you
points
already have
minimum.
3 points on the board. You could pretty much
Exactly.
put it down in pencil at least.
Exactly right. So that's a great point, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Tell me a little bit about what the Bills need to do to get past the Jets on Sunday.
Play their game, really. Just play the way that they're capable of. Now, they're coming off, as we know, a very emotional Sunday night win at home, and you got the quick turnaround Miami Thursday night, right?
That's right, we do, yeah.
So I'm very curious, are the Bills going to be able to look at this one game at a time? Are they able, what kind of a start do they get off to? I think the Jets, it's very important they take an early lead in this game, and it might be a situation where they have to hold on late, the way the Ravens were not able to do it. But I'll tell you what worries me about if I had one part of the game where I'm worried, it's communication in the Jets secondary. Sauce Gardner did a great job on DK Metcalf, and it looks like finally we have a coaching staff that is going to allow him to travel with the other team's best wide receiver. What a concept that is. Welcome to football in the 21st freaking century. But here's another thing. The Jets only played 3 cornerbacks last game. Sauce Gardner, Brandon Stevens, and Michael Carter II. We never saw A.Z. Thomas, our rookie from Florida State. We never saw Quantez Stickers. I would expect the Bills to try to spread the Jets out a little bit, put multiple receivers. Now we'll see what Keon Coleman really is. I know he got up to a great start, but he's got to do it a little more consistently to really prove that he is that guy. But we know that the Bills have a number of talented receivers. Here, Palmer, I can't include Elijah Moore just yet. Forgive me, but I can't go to Elijah Moore just now. I'm not there.
Hey, I agree with you.
And several tight ends as well. So I got to see the coverage work. No breakdowns in communication. Take the right angles to making tackles. If the Jets can do that, and that's going to definitely help their chances.
Yeah, I agree with you on there as well. I just think the Bills' offensive weapons could be a problem matchup-wise. Certainly, Dalton Kincaid is one of the tight ends there, but I consider him kind of like a slot wide receiver. And it sounds like, and we talked about this on Wednesday, the back end of your defense, that's the area of weakness, similar with the Bills on the back end as well. So it will be interesting to see for sure on what takes place. I am a little worried about the run game there. Obviously, Henry is a monster of a beast, but certainly the run game has been an issue for Bills Mafia for a long time. So it will be, hopefully it'll be a good game in any case, for sure.
Yeah, that start's going to be so paramount, though, because if the Bills come out strong, I don't see the Jets making a comeback. I mean, we talk about secondary issues. Which quarterback would you trust to throw the ball? Josh Allen or Justin Fields?
Yeah, exactly.
Good as Justin was, Josh Allen is Josh Allen.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and again, like, starting fast is a great point there. Last week, that's one of the points that I had made with Tad, the Ravens. Josh got to get out fast, and he didn't do it, and we got behind. So it would be interesting to see if the Jets come out fast. Special teams, it can be a huge piece of Sunday's game against the Jets. It really is. I think week 1 kind of showed us a little bit of what that dynamic kickoff looks like. But I think going week 2 and beyond there, it's going to be huge. Games are going to be lost on kick returns.
Guilty.
Yeah,
That's what happened
right?
week 1. We lost our kick returner to a hamstring injury. It got Kene Nwangwu, a guy who I was championing for all off season, that I wanted him to make the roster. He has more kickoff return touchdowns than anybody since he came into the league, and he hurt his hamstring. In goes Xavier Gibson, who is still living off that one play against the Bills 2 years ago and has done a whole pile of nothing ever since. And he fumbles the ball away, and that is what completely turned that game around. Not that I'm bitter,
absolutely.
but go on.
We'll get before you take off here, Adam, and I'm going to get your prediction, just like I did with Tad. I don't give my prediction till the later segment of this, but pretty much you could probably figure this out of who I'm going to pick. But I want to get your pick on the game here. But before we go, everybody knows that this is the last year of Rich Stadium. I grew up in the 90s, Super Bowl year, so I call it Rich. It's been the Ralph, the Cap, new Airfield. Yeah, Highmark now. This is the farewell season for Highmark Stadium. So I'm asking all of our guests, what is kind of the one memory that you had Bills Jets in this era? And also, too, it can be the Bills absolutely getting blown out. So it doesn't have to be, you don't have to coddle to Bills Mafia here. I know Tad had the playoff game last week, which was a hit for Bills Mafia, but really this is kind of open to the Jets here. What's the biggest memory of Bills Jets?
So I go back to about the same time frame that you do. Now, if you were to ask me what is the most memorable moment I have of a game in that particular stadium, there's really only one thing that I could think of, and it's 2015, the last game of the season, when the Jets had a win-in opportunity to make the playoffs, when Rex was there for you all, and Ryan Fitzpatrick comes into Buffalo. Long pass to Kembrell Tompkins towards the end, ball gets swatted away. Little did I know that's the last time the Jets would have a winning record up until this date. And I remember being absolutely devastated at that moment. Absolutely. And I'm still, and that was the day that taught me Todd Bowles is not a head coach. I don't care what he's done in Tampa Bay. It's the JV division of the NFL. You got 3 other teams in there that can't get out of his own way. He didn't give Darrelle Revis any help against Sammy back in the day. I almost said Stevie Johnson because he gave Revis plenty of issues as well. But they barely even used Chris Ivory in that game, who's a fantastic running back. I just did not understand what they were doing. And it was an absolutely devastating loss. But I feel like the Jets and Bills have a little bit of simpatico, a little bit of that connection, because we're sort of that blue-collar, tough fans. So even though we're division opponents, I think there's some quiet mutual respect that we don't want to acknowledge, but I think it's sort of there. We get each other,
Yeah, I can tell you without a doubt, especially from my dad and his brothers and his sister and, in his generation, the Joe Namath and the Jets will always have a piece of their heart when because of the AFL and the NFL. So that if there is one fan base or if there's one team in the division for those guys, not so much our era, but totally understand from their point of view that there's always a little piece of thankfulness and appreciation for Joe Namath and the Jets. It's definitely from that era for sure. So.
Yeah, very, very cool. And yeah, I mean, even with the Bills having the run they have now, maybe it's because they haven't been to a Super Bowl, but I have nowhere near the vitriol that I had for the Patriots and even the '90s Bills. I mean, it was a team that you had to respect. I mean, you may not necessarily be rooting for them, but yeah, it was never a situation where it ever felt personal. And
exactly.
There's a difference between a rivalry with a fan base and the organization. And I got no issue with like the Bills organization or the team or the players. If that's there's my olive branch for you. So
there you go. We'll appreciate it. We grabbed it in by you jumping in here. That's your olive branch, and me hopping on Wednesday. It's also olive branch. I look forward to doing this later on down the road here. But before you go, my friend, what are you looking at?
For the game, I would say I'm going to say the Jets do get off to a pretty good start, get a few points early. But I think around the second quarter, the Bills wake up, and then the Jets have to try to rally late. Falls a little bit short. I'm going to say Bills 27, Jets 22.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Adam, for hopping in, and for all you out there that have house divided, because I know there are Bills Mafia out there that have house divided, and you've got a Jet fan that you got to deal with this week and Sunday coming up. Make sure you check out Adam at New York Sports or NY Sports Wickermedia. And I check my socials. I posted a YouTube link there. If you caught me on Wednesday, he does do live shows. You're also Knicks or in the Mets?
Yeah, so the bulk of it is a Jets show, because when I started doing the YouTube, I started guesting on Jets shows, doing trivia, doing stats, all that kind of stuff. And eventually I started my own channels. So the bulk of it is Jets and football for sure. But other than that, I'm a Mets fan, I'm a Knicks fan, I'm a Rangers fan. So if anything moves me in the world of sports, sometimes you never know. It might even be pro wrestling. But if something moves me, I'll talk about it. And on my Wednesday night show, I open up the show with a 3 and Out, where I just talk about 3 random things around the world of New York metropolitan area sports. I feel like I need to mention metropolitan area. I don't want to finish. We don't want to get any of the New York team police out there, because I know they're in the Mafia. But that is pretty much what I do. So I go where the audience is, and it is Jets first. So I'm proud of it.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Adam. You can check him out at NY Sports Wickermedia, and he'll be there for all of your Jets stuff. And my friend, thank you again, and good luck on Sunday. And we'll cross paths soon.
Bills Mafia, make some noise. It's time for Mafia Mail.
Let's get into our Mafia Mail. It's one of my favorite segments. And we got a question. Let me pull this up here. We got a question from Daryl from Delaware. So thank you, Daryl, for the question. So here's the question, Tim.
Okay.
So the fan who puts his hands on D-Hop was ejected and banned at all NFL games. Lamar, though, forcibly pushed that fan backwards. Is there a fine here? And also, Daryl from Delaware asks, why are visiting players interacting in any form with the home team fans? Wow, pretty deep question there from Daryl. But Daryl, thank you for the question. You want to tackle this first?
Yeah, first of all, let's relax. And guess what, guys? I know you pay for the games, and I get it. Obviously, we like to partake in our vivations at Buffalo. But guess what? You can't put your hands on the players. It's just like you can't put your hands on somebody in the streets. You put your hands on somebody, they have absolutely every right to push you back. Is Lamar going to get fined? Possibly. NFL is just trying to save face, but he doesn't deserve it.
You don't. So, but you think the fan deserve? You think the fan deserves?
Absolutely. You're putting your hands on people. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, look, I agree with you here. I mean, look, should have Lamar pushed someone like that? No, but and do I think the fans should be banned? Absolutely. I think he should be banned from all of the NFL games for life. Not a place or time for that. However, the flip side of things, though, you get into the Lambeau leaps and these players are jumping in on their own, right? I mean, they're jumping in on their own, so they're interacting with the fans on their own, which we've seen in the past, beer spills and those type of things. So
if he jumped in the stands, I would say you absolutely have a point on that. But he was not. He was not in the stands. He was. Guess what? He can't help that the fans are right next to the sidelines.
Exactly. Yeah. So I agree. So Daryl, I agree. We both agree here that certainly that fan should be banned, and I do believe Lamar Jackson should get fined for that. There is a sense of responsibility on the player's part. I know that the fan provoked that, but still, there's an opportunity there for them to do it. So, yeah, I agree with you as well on that piece. Before we go, and if you caught my live on Wednesday, you know I'm on vacation right now. And little mini Mafia just has a question, and he's not going to come on camera, but what's your question? How many chicken wing products they are? Now, he is absolutely fascinated with the wing hat and the chicken wing necklace. So those are the only two that I know. Tim, do you know any more?
As far as the chicken wing products,
Yes.
not that I know of.
Not that I know of, but that is a great question. So we appreciate Daryl from Delaware and his question, and Little Mafia for his question.
And that closes out this week's Mafia Mail. Always love hearing from the family. Now, back to the action.
All right, we want to thank you guys again for the Mafia Mail, for the double question this week from Daryl from Delaware and Little Mafia here with a live audience question. So we appreciate that. All right, Tim, so let's get into this week's game, Bills-Jets. This is a quick turnaround for the Bills as they do play Thursday night against Miami. So initial thoughts of the Jets game, any possible issues with the Bills having a quick turnaround come Thursday?
I don't think so much with the quick turnaround, especially being so early in the season. There's not as much wear and tear as if this was going on mid-season. But the one thing they definitely need to worry about is the fact that they just dealt with this. A mobile quarterback with a good running game. Jets just showed they can run, and the offensive line looked good. If you can't stop the run, you're going to deal with a whole lot of the same stuff again. And honestly, Justin Fields is not the passer Lamar Jackson is, so you need to force him to pass. And that's really the key. I mean, hopefully we got one corner that can stop Garrett Wilson. But the Jets are like the little brother of the Ravens as far as the way their team is set up. They got a good running game, got a mobile quarterback, they got a good receiver. What are you guys going to do with it? Let's see if they can step it up a little bit this week.
Yeah, I agree with you. Certainly the run game is going to be a challenge, I think, going into this. I mean, I believe Hall had a pretty, I had a great game last week. So, I mean, but I think from a national standpoint, these last couple of years, you'd probably agree with me. The run defense has always been an issue for the Bills these last few years. So, that's going to be concerning. And to your point too, Tim, with the cornerback situation that we've got going on here, if Trey White is not able to play, then you're probably looking at Dorian Strong again, the 6th-round draft pick. I know he had 100% of snaps and no receptions were thrown to him, but that is also, a Henry in the backfield. So you probably got to see there. Benford, I believe, was limited the other day as well as practice. So if he is out, that definitely changes tides, don't you think?
Oh, 100%. You guys need to. Well, you better hope that Dorian Strong is as good as what his stats looked like last week, as far as stopping people.
Yeah. And then, what's kind of like, what do you think the X factor is for the Bills here as far as, the game coming up?
The X factor is, like you said, I would say stopping the running game. I want to see James Cook actually earn his money.
Okay.
Because
and he was also limited at practice too.
Yeah, I saw that as well, and it's funny how they get hurt a little bit more once they get their money. But
okay.
But biggest thing is I want to see Bills have a running game, because that's the one thing you can slow down another offense is if you're killing some clock by running the ball. Bills need to have a decent running game. You got to have the threat. You got to keep people honest.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I mean, obviously, it's something we're going to need to take a look at. James Cook, Benford, for sure. They were both limited at practice. Trey White, obviously, again, is going to be something that we're going to need to look at. I do believe if we do get Trey back and Benford, Dorian Strong is probably not starting. I know Taron Johnson was also limited on Wednesday. Again, I don't know. Limited for the Bills typically means that as long as they're practicing Thursday, they should be good to go. But that'd be a huge piece to look at. The X factor for me, Tim, and we talked about this last week, Josh Allen and the Bills have to start fast. Have to. Josh Allen has got to come out. They got to put points on the board early and put this team away early, because I do believe they can. I do believe the Bills defense is much better than what they showed last week, especially against this Jets team. So I believe that the Bills have to get out early. Also, and I mentioned this on Adam's podcast as well on Wednesday, special teams, we didn't talk too much about it last week, but special teams, Tim, is going to be a huge part, especially after what we saw in week 1 with the dynamic kickoff. If you give the ball to a Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson at the 35-yard line, it's almost guaranteed 3 points, right? Would you agree with that? They only have to go 15, 20 yards.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think a key factor in this game for the Bills as well is getting that to that 35-plus yard line and scoring fast on there as well. And Palmer, too. Look out for Palmer. I think Palmer is going to have a huge game as well.
That's one of my questions, for you is
who's
the number one? Now,
wide receiver?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So Adam asked me this Wednesday on the podcast. The Stephon Diggs leaves, and the Bills no longer have a number one wide receiver. And throughout Bills Mafia talk, that has been the talk. Like, who is the number one wide receiver? We need a number one wide receiver. The Bills need a number one wide receiver. I am very confident to say that we do not need a number one wide receiver. We do not need a Jefferson out of Minnesota. I mentioned on Adam's podcast, someone like that. And the reason being is because Josh Allen is under center. I don't know from a national media point of view,
but this is the way I look at it. As far as the number ones go, I understand where you're coming from. It's actually sometimes it's an advantage when they don't know who you're going to, but when the game's on the line, who are you passing to? Is it Keon Coleman? Is it Shakur? Is it Dalton Kincaid? Or is it? I mean, from what it looked like during the game, it looked almost like Josh Palmer ended up being the I need a catch. That's who I'm going to.
Well, I would tell you this, Tim. If the game's on the line, who do you want the ball to? Whose hands do you want the ball to be in? I mean, we saw it last week against Baltimore. Josh Allen.
Well, no matter what, the ball's going to be in his hands regardless.
No, but what I'm saying, what I'm saying to your point there, on like the number one wide receiver, it doesn't matter. Like now, in these past couple seasons, it does not matter who the number one wide receiver. If Josh Allen has the ball and he's down by points, with X amount of time left,
Mm-hmm.
he's the guy. He's the guy that has the ball because he can make it happen on his legs, right? You agree with that? He can scramble for that.
This is not a say on Josh Allen at all, because obviously Josh
No,
Allen.
I know it's not.
Josh Allen's worldly, but who are we counting on? If I need a catch in the back of the end zone to win this game, and I got one play to do it, Josh Allen has to throw it. Who's catching that ball?
Yeah, I would probably say Keon Coleman, and I think Keon Coleman was not really focused on Hard Knocks, which I was surprised about, just because of the type of player he was last year and kind of in the media.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that Keon Coleman is a sleeper here. I don't think people are really understanding his talent, and that's because of his last year. His rookie year wasn't that good, but I certainly believe Keon Coleman is having a breakout year, and he is the goal line. He's the Mike Williams for the Bills.
Yeah. He's definitely the one who's got the size. I would love to see a little more separation, the wide receivers wise. And I honestly think Shakur is the one that can get the separation when you need an actual catch. I think Shakur is the one to go.
Yeah.
But we're gonna see. Like I said, every team, every brand new season, it's gonna work itself out organically, and we'll find out who these people are.
You got a prediction for the game?
Honestly, as far as I'm not a Justin Fields believer, so I don't. I'm glad he had a good last game. Maybe he can actually reach up his talent. I think it's gonna be a blowout. I think you guys are gonna beat him by at least 20.
Yeah, I agree with you. You want to throw a score out there?
Let's say here,
right off the top of the dome.
Let's say 35-12.
Woo! Wow. All right. That was big time. Yeah, I got to agree with you here. I don't think the Jets, although they hung in there with Pittsburgh, I don't believe it's going to be quite as, back and forth here. I am looking in the 30 range from the Bills. I do believe they get out pretty fast. In fact, it's going to be a 2-touchdown deficit by the end of the first half. I think the Bills are up by 14 at the end of the first half there. So I'll go 35-10. 35-10. So that's my pick there. So this is certainly not a Jets favor here on this one, but
no.
Awesome. And then we got to just sit back and hopefully everybody's healthy and ready to go for Thursday against the Dolphins.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, weekly picks. Tim the Outsider. If you tuned in last week, you know that Tim the Outsider does these picks off the top of his dome, and he does not know who I'm going to give. And then he is going to pick them, and we're going to see how well he did. Last week, Tim, you went 2-2. Not bad to start the season. And now here are your next 4. All right. Because we are a Carolina-based show, we always like to throw the Panthers in there. Panthers cards. Who do you got?
It's going to be the Cardinals. Carolina did not look good against the Jaguars. And I thought they would look a lot better. But I think Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison are going to have a big game.
All right. So got you down for the cards. I agree with you, too, as well. I just think, Panthers are... we're not quite sure. It's week 2 here, but I'll go with the cards on that one. Lions Bears.
This is a interesting game because the Lions did not look good last week.
They did not. Do you think, real quick, Tim, do you think losing those coordinators is going to be a downfall for the Lions this year?
It definitely doesn't help. But, it wasn't just the coordinators. They lost like 8 coaches altogether.
Yeah.
So it's going to have to work itself out and see where they're going. And obviously the offensive line looked horrible. And if Goff he's not mobile like that, if he's getting rushed like that, it's going to be a problem. Chicago's got a decent defense. It's really if Caleb Williams can do something. But I don't think Detroit's going to fall that far. I think I'm going to take Detroit on this game. I think Aiden Hutchinson's going to have a big game, and Caleb Williams is going to have a problem.
Yeah, I agree with you here. I'm going to go with the Lions. I think they're just too talented. I think just head coach, organization, even though they lost a lot of coaches and that kind of thing, I just think they've been there before, they've done it. And I'm not sold on Caleb Williams. I know I did a podcast after they blew out the Bills in preseason, but yeah, I'm not 100% sold on the Bears. I'll go the Lions there. Giants Cowboys. I know this one's close to your heart.
Yeah. It's being a Giants fan. It's tough out there in those streets. But this is kind of tough because I'm trying to pick with my brain and also pick with my heart. And I definitely think the Giants can stick with Dallas. But here's the problem: is Dak looked really good week 1, and he actually looks like more mobile than I've seen him in years. The problem with the Giants is going to be Russell Wilson. If Russell Wilson's going to step it up, because if he doesn't if he played like he did week 1, guess what? It's going to be the Jackson Dart area starting very soon.
Yeah.
I think Giants might pull it out. It's going to be a close game. I think some turnovers are going to happen, and this is where the Giants, the pass rushers between Burns, Thibodeau, and Abdul Carter, and actually, even Dexter Lawrence, this is where they're going to have to step it up. We gotta shut down CD Lamb. CD Lamb was dropping balls left and right the other night. Anyway, I'm going to say Giants are going to win by a field goal.
Okay. Yeah. I feel you here. I understand kind of the aspect there. Russell Wilson, bridge quarterback, maybe time for Dart here. I'm actually going to go with Cowboys. I do, like you had mentioned earlier in your take there. Dak looked really good, really moving around. So I do think that they have something going on there in Dallas right now, at least early in the year. So I will go with Dallas on this one, but it's not going to be, to your point, it's not going to be a blowout. This may come down to just like a last second field goal or a kick return or something like that. So I don't think this is going to be, the Giants are going to get blown out. But I do believe that Dallas may pull this one out. Last one, Pats, Dolphins. We like to keep in the AFC East. This is a barn burner here. Dolphins and we're going to have a guest next week to talk about the Dolphins on a short week, but man, Dolphins, Pats, who do you got on this one?
I got the Pats. The simple fact is, I think the Dolphins are going to be one of the worst teams this year.
I agree. Yeah.
The fact that Tua already got benched in week 1, I think it's time for this team to just blow it up. I'm very surprised Tyreek Hill hasn't been traded already.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely going to come before the season, and wouldn't be surprised if he goes to Kansas City because of it. I'm a believer in Drake May, and I like where the Pats are going. I just don't think, I think Miami's going to be one of the worst teams in the league this year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Pats are I would not be shocked if the Pats blow them out. I don't think Mike McDaniels make it past week 4, to be honest with you. I think this is going to get shut down real early, especially if somehow the Jets pull off an upset against the Bills and the Patriots win, that's going to put the Dolphins behind the 8 ball big time. So I don't really see Mike McDaniels lasting much longer here. I've never been sold on Tua, never understood that whole concept, and we'll get into it next week with the Miami game coming up. So I'm interested to see what this year is. And look, the Jets and the Patriots are 2 teams that are on the up, and you had mentioned this earlier. I mean, obviously with Josh Allen in division, it's going to be hard, but those are definitely 2 teams that have certainly moved way ahead of the Dolphins. So I do have the Pats winning this game as well.
Absolutely.
All right, Bills Mafia. Well, we close out another week and we prep for the Jets coming in on Sunday. One quick house note. We are now on YouTube. Yes, we are not only on Spotify, we're also on YouTube, and you can check out our podcast at Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover. You can see past episodes. You can see week 1 episode with Tad from the Ravens. So you check us out not only on Spotify, but on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe, like, leave any comments that you have there for Tim and I. And I also want to thank once again, Tim, for joining us this week here.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you riding with us, and also the Mafia for tuning in. Don't forget to send your questions to billsmafiacto@gmail.com. You can send those for your Mafia mail, as well as any questions for Tim, the outsider there. We'll be back next week, a short week, as the Bills get into a Thursday night game with Miami. So we'll be back talking about that, and hopefully another W in the books by that time. And as always, be good, do good, God bless, and go Bills.
That's a wrap on today's episode of Bills Mafia Carolina Takeover. Thanks for tuning in and repping the Mafia with us. Don't forget to subscribe, drop your Mafia mail, and join us next time as we bring the passion, the pride, and the power of the Buffalo Bills straight from the Carolinas. Let's go Buffalo.